Hello, my friends. Welcome to the stream. Yes, I am once again very late. Life is just overpowering my plans to do what I want to do and when I want to do it. But I am here. I've got the show notes ready for the Private Citizen, which we are recording tonight. And we will be talking about Gamestop. What else would we be talking about? But first of all, let's open a lovely bottle of Pilsner. Because it has been a long day. And dry January is over. So I'm going to celebrate this. Astral, how are you doing? Oh, the fox palm emote. Nice. I hope people like that and find a use for it. Right, so I got everything set up. Whoa! Galtaran! Thanks for subscribing. 1 year! Holy shit. I've got sub badges coming. I need to finish to draw them. I will draw them live on stream and then you'll have a snazzy badge. That is fucking amazing. Thank you, man. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I really do. So I got everything set up here. I've got beer. I've got everything. Let's just see. Let's just do a quick test recording to see if everything works. Oh, why is that? Okay. We need to zoom in. Well, that works. Hello. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. My keyboard is the shit. Thank you for that. My keyboard is... I have a blog post on this. If you... Wait. I got some time, right? I'll post it in chat. Let me just... I have to use Google. Sunshine keycaps. See, this is how the pros do it. That's why I don't have search on my website because here you go. So the keyboard originally looked like the upper picture, and which I already liked. Very hacker. I still have the keys. I liked it, but I found these keycaps hard. Well, I actually found them when I bought the keyboard, and actually I planned to upgrade immediately, but they weren't shipping them for a while. So when they got them. I got them. They're from Tai Hao. And I changed them. And I love it. It makes me happy every time I look at my keyboard. And because I look at my keyboard every day, that is very important. Oh God, I've been recording all this shit. Well, now we know that it works. Let's listen. That works. Hello. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Cheers, everybody, by the way. My keyboard is the shit. Thank you for that. My keyboard is... right. So, that works. I think we can do a show. And I think, get right into it because if you've been waiting for me doing this, 2 hours ago, you've been waiting long enough. Just very quickly, as usual, I will not be interacting with chat as much as I usually do. You know, when I stream a game or something, just because I'm recording a podcast and I don't want it to be off-putting to the people who listen to it later on the podcast. Be sure that I read everything, and we have a feedback section. So I'm, if you just chime in, then I'd be very happy to address your feedback. But you can also do so. While I do the show, just post in chat. I'll just be assured I will not ignore it. If I don't go into it, then that's the reason. But sometimes it's it works with the flow, and then I'll I'll take some live feedback into advisement. So that's the disclaimer out of the way. So let's do this. Let's record this podcast. Maybe last time I think the last 2 times I did the intro with one take. Let's see if we can do this now. Thanks everybody for being here, by the way. I appreciate it very much. Once again, I'm sorry for being late. Right. Oh, the date's wrong. Okay, I need to fix that. Otherwise, I'm going to read the wrong date. Hello, Atom. Move your fucking... I need to reinstall Windows. This is getting untenable. What the hell, man? Time doesn't matter right now, but we have Wednesday. Don't want to be reading out the wrong date. Okay. Start recording, and here we go. Hello everybody, you're listening to The Private Citizen. This is episode 54 for Wednesday, the 3rd of February, 2021. Hodl, the Stonks. Hey everybody, welcome to The Private Citizen. My name is Fab, coming to you live from the lockdown city of Düsseldorf in Germany. And today... the show is almost a year old, but just almost. Today we're going to talk about Gamestop, because that's the big topic. But I'll explain a bit later. I hope you're doing well. As usually, I'm recording this live on Twitch with some people who are watching live, which is pretty cool. I'm okay in Germany, still locked down here. Now they're telling us what mask we have to wear. It's not enough that you just wear a mask. No, it has to be special masks, even though there's absolutely no scientific evidence that one mask is better than the other. But shut up, science says. That's how it goes. Or as it is often sounds like here.
Düsseldorf currently exceeds the threshold level for spreading the coronavirus. There have been more than 50 new infections per 100,000 residents in 1 week. Please help to reduce this level of infection. Ensure you wear a full face mask in our buses and trains, at stops and in underground stations. Keep your distance and make sure to cough or sneeze into the crook of your arm. Stay healthy. You're Reinbach.
Stay healthy, otherwise you will be shot. Thank you very much. But in other news, dry January is over. I set myself the mission to not drink anything in January, just for a challenge, and I managed. And now I can drink again. So cheers! I'm having some lovely Radeberger here. And before we get into the topic of today, GameStop. I keep saying GameStop, kind of fits. Before we get into that, the whole craziness here, I just wanted to announce. So I had said last week that I probably won't do an episode this Wednesday, which I'm doing right now. So there'll be 2 episodes this week. You get special episode. We're doing this one on the normal Wednesday cycle, as you can tell, just with a normal topic that I go in depth on, and then on Friday we'll have a special episode. Because Friday will be exactly the 1-year anniversary of this show. And I had an idea. I went into the producer-only channel that we have in our Discord server, and I asked the people that are supporting the show monetarily if they would like to ask me some questions, AMA style, ask me anything. And I got some very interesting ones, which I haven't looked too deeply on. I'll just list them down and I'll answer them live on Friday. So I'll do that on Friday, and then that will be our special 1 year episode. So it won't be any other topic. It'll just be that. It will be apropos of nothing. You'll just probably learn something about your host, and which might kick off some interesting discussions. But I thought that was a good idea, and so we're doing that, and you get a bonus episode, so you can look forward to that on Friday. But let's get into the topic at hand here. Let's talk about GameStop and what the hell happened in the last few weeks. So, before I get into this, I need to get a disclaimer out of the way. I am the last person you should ever ask for financial advice. Fun fact, I would be a millionaire right now if I hadn't sold my Bitcoins years ago for nothing, basically. So don't ask me. I don't own any stock. I've never owned any stock. In my household, the wife manages the finances. I actually wrote blog posts about this. This is actually another fun fact. Kicked off a change in the German tax system a while ago because I wrote a blog column about the fact that so in Germany, it's a very old-fashioned country, they assume that the person filing the taxes is the man, and if the woman does that, she still gets addressed as the man. And I complained about that in a column on my blog, and that got basically went through the whole German press everywhere, 36 newspapers or whatever. And at some point, some journalists asked the Finanzverwaltung, the taxation office, basically, if they were going to change that. And they are changing that. They're in the process of changing that, which is something I caused, which is fun. But, my wife's doing the finances. So I don't own any stocks. I don't want to own any stocks. I don't really know how the stock market works, and this is not my expertise. I usually don't write about this. So that just to let you know, I've done as usual. I've read all the stuff. I'm not dumb. I can usually read stuff and understand stuff. One of my first articles back in the day for CT was basically explaining Bitcoin. There was a lot of financial stuff in it. I thought that article in 2013 was late, really late, too late. I was amazed that they hadn't done that before, but in hindsight, maybe it was actually early, especially for Germany. Yeah, so I can do this. I looked into this. Just be aware. I'm not going to go very in depth about what shorting is and all that kind of stuff, because I probably get it wrong. To me, personally, I've always thought the stock market is a bit bullshit. One of the things that I actually, I did this episode on socialism a while ago, just as a baseline, so people understand what we're talking about. And, I've talked about Marx and Engels and stuff there, but, I don't agree with socialists in many regards. And by that, if you don't haven't listened to that episode, listen to that episode, because if you're American and we don't, so the episode was basically about the thing that we don't mean the same thing when we say socialism. I mean actually socialism. That was episode 34, by the way. What most Americans mean when they say socialism is actually social democracy, which I'm completely okay with. But generally, I don't agree with socialists on many things. I do agree with Marx that the stock market is bullshit. I mean, the Das Kapital is basically a criticism of the stock market. Capital in the Marx sense being money that is just there. That is just there to basically make more money, and people who own that. So, I know that it fulfills a very important function in our economy, but I've never really, it's not my thing, and I don't really, I don't know. I wouldn't, if I say I don't approve of people buying stocks, that would be harsh. I don't care, do whatever you want, but it's not something for me. Real Funky Duck in Twitch chat says that's because the stock market is a bit bullshit. Yeah, it kind of is a little bit. I mean, it's a mishmash, right? On one hand, it's bullshit. On the other hand, it's an important tool to finance things, and it drives our economy. But I've always had this pet peeve, and I've actually never articulated this until I listened on some podcast. I can't remember what podcast it was. It might have been The Daily. I don't know. They had an economist on. And this was still in the Trump days. And they were talking about how generally the economy, I mean, there are ways to measure the economy. And usually the stock market is one of it. But under Trump, because Trump is such a stock market guy, the economy basically was synonymous with the stock market. And a country's economy can do quite well without the stock market doing well. Or, if the stock market does really bad, then usually the economy does really bad. But, there's a difference between like the economy and the stock market. And the stock market alone, it might not be a good indicator just for the economy, which is something we've got. That's one of the big things we're going to see here today. But anyway, with that disclaimer out of the way. So what happened? What happened with GameStop? I'm going to do my best to explain here. And also talk about why traditional media, why am I talking about this? Because I think as a tech journalist and as people who listen to this, you're interested in privacy, in technology, but also in politics, I guess. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to the show, and how that all intersects. And I think this is something that interests you. I have limited ways of telling what episodes people like if they don't write me directly about it, and that's always just a very small percentage of the actual people listening, and lots of people who like something won't write. Like most people that write you, that's true of anything. If your podcast doesn't matter, most people that write you tell you that they don't like something. But I've got some limited numbers from the servers, and I can kind of tell that one of my most listened to episodes, of course, the most listened to episode usually is the first episode of a podcast, but if you don't account for that, one of the most listened to episodes is the one I did on Plaid, so this financial background services company, which is more privacy oriented than what we're going to talk about today. But a big factor in the thing that happened are these day trading apps that are relatively new. And I think a bit factor here is in the way the media reported on this whole story. So we're talking MSNBC, CNN, the usual Reuters, Bloomberg, the usual suspects. A lot of those didn't understand the new technologies in play here, even though they've written about them before, but, they don't really understand them. And I think I can bring something to the table here. And maybe if you haven't heard about this topic at all, you just heard GameStop and don't know what's going on. So, let me fill you in. So, reading a bit from Wikipedia, which has a relatively good page on this thing. In January 2021, that is last month, a short squeeze of the stock of the American video game retailer GameStop, which stock symbol on the New York Stock Exchange is GME. That's Golf Mike Echo. And others, GameStop and other securities took place, causing major financial consequences for certain hedge funds and large losses for short sellers. Approximately 140% of GameStop shares had been sold short. And the rush to buy shares to cover those positions as the price rose caused it to rise even further. The short squeeze was initially and primarily triggered by users of the subreddit r/Wall Street Bets, an internet forum on the social news website Reddit. At its height, the short squeeze caused the retailer's stock price to reach a pre-market value of over $500 per share, nearly 200 times the stock's one-year low of $2.57. Many other heavily shorted securities also saw price increases. On January 28th, multiple brokerages, including Robinhood, which is one of I guess in the US the biggest of these apps, these day trading apps that people use, On January 28th, multiple brokerages, including Robinhood, halted the buying of GameStop and other securities, later citing their inability to post sufficient collateral and clearinghouses to execute their clients' orders. This decision attracted criticism and accusation, we're going to talk about this later, of market manipulation from prominent politicians and business people from across the political spectrum, and dozens of class action lawsuits were filed against Robinhood in US courts. In reaction to brokerages halting the buying of GameStop and other securities, the total market capitalization of cryptocurrencies and metal futures increased. I have a picture of the GameStop stock. That's hard to say. The stonk. Let's just call it the stonk of the stonk, GME, in the show notes. The show notes, as usual, privatecitizen.press. Go to privatecitizen.press. That's where you will find all of this information and links, so you can, don't have to believe me. Think for yourself. Be critical. So, if you look at in these Reddit groups, they have an expression which I think comes from Dogecoin, or that's where I encountered it first. But to the moon. And they always post like this little rocket emoji. If you look at this stock, it literally does that. Like on the, I don't know what that is, the 26 or 27. The stock is just like the graph. I mean, I don't know nothing about the stock market, but I know that this graph is unusual. It like rises vertically. So you can see it rise over, starting, I don't know, in the middle of January, but then it goes up. And then, of course, it goes down, and now it's down. I'm going to talk about the aftermath. What happened afterwards here as well later, but it's still a lot higher than it was traded at before. But you can see this is a major event. This caused this thing to be on mainstream news. Now, Wall Street Bets, which I'd never heard about because I think the stock market is a bit bullshit, and I'm, I don't have a lot of. I spent my disposable income is what I'm trying to say. I think on magic cards and video games. So I don't buy. It's probably stupid of me, but Anyway, so I don't know about these guys, but it's been around for ages. So as far as I can tell from what I've read on the net, they got interested in GameStop because this is the kind of analysis they do. It's kind of like a Reddit. It's like a bit like shit posting crossed with investments. There's a lot of people there that have a, let's say if you're like a suit on Wall Street, it's called a very unorthodox investment strategy. And they are talking about this. And of course, this being Reddit, I mean, that's why they're interested in this, but also this being Reddit, these are gamers, right? And gamers, contrary to what a lot of gaming journalists were saying a few years ago, are not dead. They are pretty much a subculture. They are very, if they get, let's put it this way. There's one thing about gamers, right? And I consider myself a gamer as well. If they're like hardcore fans, if they get interested in something or they are passionate about something, they're like really passionate. And, this kind of also includes, the industry and companies. So I think one aspect of this whole thing was just that this is a gaming category. Yes, games for life, as Twitch chat, of course, immediately says. So, this is a gaming company. And I think one aspect was that people were just pissed off that, hedge funds or other people were shorting GameStop. And we're basically saying it's dead. It's a brick and mortar business. They're all dead. Digital games, blah, blah, blah. The pandemic, they're dead. Now, people still like these stores. They like brick and mortar stores. They like going to GameStop. You can buy little, I don't know, all these figures and stuff. I mean, I personally, I haven't bought a physical boxed game or been in a store. I mean, there are GameStop stores in Germany. I haven't been in such a store for probably 10 years. maybe it's probably close. I think possibly the last game I bought, or like at least the last game I can remember I bought in a box, was World of Warcraft when it initially came out. There must have been some after that, but usually I've been buying these things on the internet for ages, especially also because back in the day I always used to play. I like to play them in the original language, and that was always hard to get in Germany in retail stores. But anyway, so this seems to be a factor in this whole thing, right? So Wikipedia summarizes the Wall Street bets and the whole situation as follows. The community is known for discussing the discussion around high-risk stock transactions, or as they like to call them, stonks. That was me editorial. That's not Wikipedia. They're way too stick up the ass to say that. Even before the short squeeze, there had been interest in GameStop. Keith Gill, known by the Reddit username DeepFuckingValue and the YouTube and Twitter alias Roaring Kitty, purchased around $53,000 in call options on GameStop's stock in 2019 and saw his position rise to a value of $48 million by GameStop by January 27, 2021. Gill, a 34-year-old millennials, Gill, a 34-year-old marketing professional and chartered financial analyst from Massachusetts, stated that he began investing in GameStop during the summer of 2019. After believing the stock... I can't talk anymore. After believing the stonk to be undervalued. He shared information as DeepFuckingValue regarding his investment on the subreddit r/Wall Street Bets, providing regular updates on the investment's performance, including times, so this has been going on for years, right? Or at least a year. Including times when the investment had plunged. He stated on January 29th, after the GameStop short squeeze, that he, quote, thought this trade would be successful, unquote, but, quote, never expected what had happened over the last week, end quote. Adding that he planned to continue his YouTube channel as Roaring Kitty and potentially buy a house. And a Corvette. And a second Corvette. And an Aston Martin. DeepFuckingValue explained, he explained his position before this is before the short squeeze happened on Reddit as follows. Dude, everyone thinks I'm crazy, and I think everyone else is crazy. He noticed that people are shorting GameStop. I've dealt in deep value stocks for years. That's why his name is DeepFuckingValue, I guess. But have never endured bearish sentiment this heavy. I expect the narrative to shift in the second half of the year when investors start looking for ways to play the console refresh and they begin to see what I see. I'll post the update tomorrow, as I always do after data readouts. It will be ugly and everyone will mock me as usual, but I expect GME to bounce back just as it did after the two previous earnings readouts. So he wasn't the only guy, by the way, who thought that GameStop was undervalued. Wikipedia says, again, typical Wikipedia prose here, GameStop, an American chain of brick-and-mortar video game stores, had struggled in recent years due to competition from digital distribution services, as well as the economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, which reduced the number of people who shopped in person. As a result, or couldn't shop because of fucking lockdowns. As a result, GameStop's stock price declined, leading many institutional investors to short sell the stock. However, in September 2020, Ryan Cohn, the former CEO of online pet food retailer Chewy, revealed a significant investment in GameStop and joined the company's board, leading some to believe that the stock was undervalued. And of course, this all happened when this all happened. So DeepFuckingValue kept posting about this, and he had just attracted attention, and he was posting about the fact that they were shorting, like hedge funds were shorting GameStop. Now you have to remember, this is Reddit, so it's a gamers. Almost all of these people are gamers, right? And they're investing in stock, but they're very unconventional. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on Reddit. Like those fucking hedge fund people don't read Reddit usually. So they have a very special outlook on things. They also probably hate hedge funds. And I mean, who likes hedge funds, really? And probably short sellers. Now, interestingly, I did an episode. Well, I'm going to talk about that when in a bit when I talk about what short sellers are. But you know, they have a different outlook. So they noticed this and they were like, oh man, they're short selling GameStop so much to like 140%. So there was people were shorting it more than actual stock that you can buy existed. And they were like, oh, this is like a vulnerability, right? We all get on Robinhood or whatever app we're using and we all buy GameStop stock, then the price will skyrocket and these guys will go out of business. And this happened, became a thing, became a meme. People were doing it. People were posting about it. It blew up. It got covered. It started to work. And then more and more people realized. And then, you know, it just ran away. And of course, the whole subreddit completely blew up. Again, Wikipedia. On January 27th, technology news website Mashable reported that the subreddit had broken page view records due to the short squeeze, receiving 73 million page views in 24 hours. 73 million page views in 24 hours. I think I've worked for websites that had that much page views in a year. r/Wall Street Bets was the fastest growing subreddit. The community surged by more than 1.5 million users overnight to a total of 6 million members on January 29th. So these guys had always been around. They had always been doing these things. But as it is, meme, something happens, you know, the whole thing runs away with everybody and it just goes crazy. Now, a quick discourse into what is actual short selling, right? I'm going to quote Wikipedia here because if I do it, I'm just going to get something wrong. So Wikipedia says, short selling is a finance practice in which an investor, known as the short seller, borrows shares and immediately sells them, hoping to buy them back later, which is called covering, at a lower price. Return to the borrowed shares plus interest. Short selling is a finance practice in which an investor, known as the short seller, borrows shares and immediately sells them, hoping to buy them back later at a lower price. Return the borrowed shares plus interest to the lender and profit of the difference. Okay, so basically, I mean, long selling is when you just buy a stock, right? So your idea is, okay, this stock is undervalued. I'm going to buy it. You know, the Tesla a few years ago, you're like, okay, this stock has potential. I'm going to buy it. And then it goes up. And you bought it for less and you sell it for more. So you make a profit. Short selling is kind of the opposite. You're gambling on the company losing value, right? So basically, you borrow shares from somebody, right? So you're thinking the price will go down. So the share is at the moment it's expensive, right? So you borrow them at the expensive price. And then you sell them at that price. You borrow them from somebody and then you sell them on. Right? So at that moment, you probably made a bit of a loss because, you know, there's interest for borrowing. But generally, it would be a zero-sum game, right? If you paid the guy you borrowed them from back immediately, it would be pretty much a zero-sum game and you'd lose some interest or fees or whatever. But what you're hoping is you're selling it on to a high price, right? And then you're hoping that the stock falls, right? Like that the price goes down. At which point you would then return. Okay, so you've borrowed a share, sold it to somebody for a high price. the stock falls, but you still have to give that share back to the guy you borrowed it from. But when the stock price falls, you can just buy it. You can buy another one for cheap and then hand that back to the original guy you borrowed it from, right? And because you immediately resold the one you borrowed at a high price and you can just rebuy it at a low price, you just pocket the difference, which is complicated. But that's basically how it works. Now, it has a downside. Again, Wikipedia, the practice carries an unlimited risk of losses because there's no inherent limit to how high a stock price can rise. This is in contrast with taking a long position, simply owning the stock, where the investor's loss is limited to the cost of their initial investment. So, these Wall Street Bets guys noticed that some guys were short selling. So they were betting that the price was going down. So they borrowed these stocks, sold them immediately, and then were hoping to buy them back at a high price. Now they thought, okay, if we can get the share price to skyrocket, right, they have to buy them back at the high price because you have to return them at some point. So you have to buy them back at the high price, which is, I think, called covering. That's the covering bit. And so they were trying to force them to cover at the high price, which would lose them a lot of money. So if you have a big short position, right, you buy 1 million shares, like you do that borrowing thing, but you're like basically at the current stock price, let's say you spend $1 million to buy these shares, and then the stock skyrockets by 200%, right? You'd have to buy them back instead of a lower price. You invested $1 million, you'd have to buy the shares back at 200 million. Right, you make a huge loss, and that's basically what these guys were seeing. That's like they had all these short positions, these hedge funds and investors and stuff, and they were like, let's really fuck them over by making the share price rise. So as Wikipedia explains this, short sellers are exposed to a risk of short squeezing, which occurs when the shortened stock jumps in value due, for instance, to a sudden piece of favorable news. Short sellers are then forced to buy back the stock they had initially sold in an effort to keep their losses from mounting. Purchasing the stock to cover their short positions raises the price of the shortened stock, thus triggering more short sellers to cover their positions by buying the stock. This can result in a cascade of stock purchases and an even bigger jump of the share price. And that is exactly what we've seen. Now, people are immediately, when this broke, were like, what? With short sellers, they're assholes, they're all bad. Like, I had a guy I follow on Twitter who's a very intelligent person. It's like, why isn't this illegal? Well, first off, it makes a lot of people a lot of money. But I link in the show notes. I did an episode 26, which was entitled "When a Bank Starts Gaslighting People." This is on privacy and security implications. But basically, it was about a short seller, and in there I discussed the positive aspect of short sellers. Short sellers are generally considered to have, as any practice, it can be, there are predators, you can misuse it. But generally it is their role in the financial system is basically companies that are overvalued. If short sellers, they do some research on the company, so they can prove why they're overvalued, or maybe even that they're cooking the books or doing something illegal or semi-illegal, and then they're put in a short position, and then they publish their findings, and then the stock falls because the company was overvalued, and they just proved that, and that's how they make money, right? And some people, I guess, see that as market manipulation, but really it is, it's the company who was overvalued. The stock was not valued as the price as it should be. Like in this case, these short sellers I was talking about in that episode, we're talking about Wirecard, right? Wirecard, the biggest fraud in the history of the German stock exchange, by far a huge scandal, which I did that episode on, and another episode I think. There's a if you go to that episode, there's a tag at the top, a Wirecard. All my episodes have these tags. If you click on those, you get like related episodes. So if that's interesting to you, it's a very interesting story. But that scandal was made public, not by journalists, not by accountants, not by the fucking bookkeepers, not by the auditing company, not by the German, financial institution, the BaFin, which looks after banks and stuff like that. None of those people. Short sellers. The short sellers were saying for years that Wirecard was actually lying about their finances, and they were right. And, the Financial Times did a story about this with the short sellers, and then actually got threatened by the German financial overseeing, governmental organization, sued and threatened because they were saying these short sellers are manipulating the market. They actually put a pause on short selling for Wirecard. Meanwhile, these short sellers were right. They were the ones who showed the world that Wirecard was doing something wrong. So, short selling, as everything, as everything in the world, it can be used for bad and good. But there are definitely positive implications of it. Of course, in this case, the Reddit people didn't like the short sellers saying that GameStop was undervalued. I don't think this original guy, Deep Fucking Value, was implying any of that. He just thought, okay, I do like these. He did interesting investments, and he did an analysis, and he thought, well, they're undervalued, right? So I'm going to bet on the stock rising. And it just like ran away because I think a lot of people are pissed off with the hedge funds and stuff like that. Right. So why were these short sellers targeted by a large number of people? One of the reasons is this whole 40% thing. Again, I think this Wikipedia. On January 22nd, 2021, it's definitely Wikipedia, approximately 140% of GameStop's public float, that is the portion of shares of a corporation that are in the hands of public investors, so not held by the CEO or the board or whatever, had been sold short, meaning some shorted shares had been relent and shorted again, right? So they were basically selling shares that didn't exist because they were lending and then. This is one of the things where I can't understand it anymore. And I'm like, this is all complete bullshit. Had been sold short, meaning some shorted shares had been relent and shorted again. Observers congregating around r/Wall Street Bets believed the company was being significantly undervalued, and with such a large amount of the shares being short, they could trigger a short squeeze by driving up the price to the point where short sellers had to capitulate and cover their positions at large losses, right? And they then just did that. Now, interestingly, this came as a surprise to everybody because this is basically retail investors, people like you and me sitting at home using these apps, right? And they then talk on Reddit. This would never have happened. In a world, 20 years ago when, you'd have to ring up your stockbroker or whatever. And you'd hello, this is James McMoneypenny the third. I would like to buy some GameStop stock. Yes, Jeff. Are you writing this down? I would like to purchase 500 shares of game. I think it is called GameStop. I think they sell video games. It's not like that anymore. People are just sitting at home using these apps. But I'm gonna go into that in a bit when I get into that. When the next topic I'm gonna talk about a little bit about these apps. But So to wrap up what happened, this is how Wikipedia sums it up. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, why did this happen? Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, consumer spending in general was drastically lower than normal. There was also more money in the hands of investors as a result of historically low interest rates and an inability to spend their money elsewhere. I could buy Magic cards. Magic, it's interesting. This is something that I can't wrap my brains around. Magic the Gathering had its best year in its history. It's like what, 94? How old is Magic now? 25? A long time. Old game. Had its best year in history, including, this is not everybody going to digital, this is including paper sales were better than ever in a year when nobody can meet and play fucking Magic together. It's so weird. But anyway, yes. So a lot of people apparently didn't buy Magic cards, but they were buying Stonks. And an inability to spend their money elsewhere. Other suggested factors included a culture of taking massive gambles on the stock market in the hopes of making money quickly. Anger of some investors towards Wall Street hedge funds for their role in the financial crisis of 2007-2008, or the general democratization of the stock market, coupled with the ability of retail traders to communicate instantaneously through social media, which isn't new, right? I mean, that in itself is just mind-blowing that that's a new thing. That you could have done that in the 80s on a BBS if you wanted to. It's just like the people that were on the internet back in the day when I was a kid, when the internet was still a nice place, just were nerds. Like we weren't buying stocks. It changed, One stonk, please, says Real Funky Duck, who at some point might have had some GME stock. We were discussing this. Funky Duck, by the way, thank you. Big influence why I did this episode, because we were discussing this in the Discord server quite a lot during the week, and I thought this was really interesting. Need to put it on the show. Right. So completely lost my train of thought. So I don't know. This is not really new, but the new nerds are doing new stuff right now. And I think the gamble bit is like there's a gambling element here. So in the last few years, I learned that several of my friends, or just, friends of friends or acquaintances or whatever, that I would never think own any stock, actually do. And they use these apps. Like in the last 1-2 years, I've met, I've talked to people I've talked to for years, and they're like, yeah, I do like day trading. I just put like a bit of money aside. That's just like, like some people, which is something I would understand. Like you put money aside, then you go to a casino and you just blow that money. And they basically have the same mindset. They just put money aside. If it's gone, it's gone. And then they just do the same thing. It's like gambling. It's like gambling to them. And coupled with these apps makes it really easy. You can like watch Netflix and do it on the couch, right? And you can just like do weird bets like these guys at, Wall Street Bets, and just have fun with it, basically. They're basically using it as a casino. Which, we also discussed this on the Discord, because I think my favorite US representative, AOC, mentioned, she said in a tweet that the stock market is basically a casino, which I object to. Whoa, I'm sorry. My microphone just, for some reason, turned around and did weird things. Maybe AOC has a voodoo doll of my microphone. She's becoming my nemesis. I completely object to that, because I actually understand why these. I just call it gambling as well, but it was more in air quotes, because I actually understand why, like, intelligent people, most people I'm friends with, I would consider intelligent. Quite a few of them are nerds. Why they are doing this, right? A lot of them got into it with cryptocurrencies and are also doing stonks. But because it is like, I'm not that person. I actually like to go to the casino. I just like actual gambling, right? It's like the gambling element in Magic the Gathering I really like. Is something some Magic players don't really enjoy, but I really like it. And that's just a different mindset to me. Now, the stock market is not, you can use it to gamble, but it's not really gambling. Like, if you know what you're doing, right? The fact that hedge funds exist, the fact that, people's life savings, and people's and organizations put the pensions of people into funds and into the stock market, actually tells you that it's not gambling. If you know what you're doing, you will make a profit. It's not like you don't make. That's why hedge funds exist, right? You don't always make a profit, but on average, you will make a profit. Not the case in a casino. The house always wins. In a casino, the casino always wins. As we discussed in the Discord as well, there is, of course, a notable exception. Well, there are two notable exceptions there in the Discord. I was saying this, and people were saying, well, what about poker? Yes, poker is an exception. Blackjack actually is too. As you maybe know. What's that movie with there's a true story of these math nerds. I think this was in the 70s. They went into casinos in Las Vegas and just cleaned them out, because if you're really intelligent and if you have a good memory, you can actually do card counting in blackjack, and you can just win you won't win all the time, but you will win on an average. You can actually clean out the casino. Poker, similar, although there's because of the human element, and there's a lot of chance. So poker is set up in a way. So there's if you actually do the card counting in blackjack, and they notice because you win a lot, they will throw you out of the casino, right? I mean, you've seen Ocean's 11, you've seen all these movies. They actually throw you out of the casino because they know what's going on, and they know the casino will go bankrupt if you keep doing it. With poker, they don't do that, because poker tables are set up in a way where the house also always wins. With the money, the dealer gets, or wherever how that works, and because it's basically a zero-sum game, right? If you're a really good poker player, especially if you don't play in tournaments, but if you go to places where tourists play, right, you can always clean them out. But it's the casino isn't losing, right? The casino's making money anyway because of the buy-in and all of that. But you will win on other people will lose, and the stock market basically is pretty much the same way in that respect. Where you where the guys who know what they're doing, they're winning, and it costs other people who don't know what they're doing. But in general, I wouldn't say the stock market is gambling. If you say that, you don't understand the stock market, and you don't understand how it is bad, because the stock market itself, if I was AOC, and I thought of myself as a socialist, even though she really isn't one, but as a left-leaning social democrat, let's call it that, then yes, the stock market is evil, because the stock market is an instrument of people who already have more money than they need to make more money, right? And it's a whole thing. It's a whole setup of people that go to special schools and learn all this shit, and then they basically rip everybody else off who don't have that knowledge. It's not like you can go and get that knowledge. Of course you can, but you know what I mean. It's it's not gambling. If it was gambling, it was rich people throwing their money away. But that would mean they would throw it away, right? That would mean they would lose a lot. But the thing is, they don't, right? And they don't do it themselves. They invest in funds and whatever, and they have people to do it for them. But they'll just make more and more and more and more money. But anyway, enough rant on the stock market. I've talked about magic here before, and I put a video in the show notes because, as abysmal as the coverage on mainstream media was, one of my favorite YouTubers, a guy called Rudy from Alpha Investments, who has a very funky way of doing videos. If you watch that, don't let yourself be put up by all the inside jokes. There's lots of going on with tacos and greed monsters and him living in his basement, whatever. The guy, don't be fooled. The guy is a millionaire. Is a bona fide millionaire. I think he used to be we used to work at a hedge fund. I think he was a Wall Street guy. He quit and opened a Magic the Gathering store, and then started investing in really old Magic cards that are basically like precious metals, and they get more and more expensive. And he made a fortune doing that. Now he's very funky, and I generally would say he has an abysmal haircut and is unshaven, and actually looks like he lives in his mom's basement. But the thing is, I can't really, in this current situation that I'm in, I can't really make fun of his haircut because, there's a link if you listen to the podcast, which most people do, and which is fair. Podcasts are amazing. And this is first and foremost a podcast. But I am recording this live and streaming this on Twitch, which has video. So there's always a link in the show notes. So you can always go and you don't have to, watch the whole show again. But if you wanted to see me, what I look like in my office here at home, then you could do that. And you will see that my haircut is even worse. Because I look like a fucking hobo these days, so can't really dig him for his haircut. But really is amazing, and he basically explains what happened, and he explains Wall Street Bets. He's been a member of that for ages. Of course he is. Could have thought so. But he has a lot of knowledge, inside knowledge of Wall Street because he used to work there, and he basically says that these guys who he used to know. Are really cocky. So basically, he worked a lot when he was in high school. Whatever, he earned a lot of money just working and working and working. He talks about this in his videos a lot. Like in restaurants, I think his parents had a restaurant and just made enough money to go to whatever financial school you go to, and sat through all of that, and then became a Wall Street guy, and actually probably made some money there too. Invested that, and then he invested that and made him, opened a magic store. And he also, I think he does real estate investment, but he knows what he's talking about. Just watch that video. Just like the way he talks about hedge fund managers, it's like they're cocky. Believe me, they're cocky. So he is. I can only recommend that. I've got some other further reading things if you're interested in the story. I wrote a newsletter on this topic where I basically ran about the media and what they did wrong, but I'm going to go into that in a bit as well. There's a very interesting Twitter thread from Josh Gross, who basically figured a lot of this out. I think he's writing a book now, and I don't know if it's him, but somebody's writing a book. It's not even written, and MGM already bought the film rights for this, which, it's going to make a great film, but, I thought MGM was bankrupt, so I don't know. They're probably going to get bailed out as well. And then also a great newsletter, basically also a column, Suck It Wall Street by Meta EB. I also liked very much. Anyway, let's get a bit more into, I've talked about a lot of this, but let's get into the actual apps and, technology and why I think that is interesting. So a lot of this stuff happened because there's these startups, right? These apps, it's kind of a lot like actually these plate guys. Just basically people. These apps are just like front ends for normal stockbrokers. As far they're basically like stockbroker. Usually you'd ring up your stockbroker and they have your portfolio, and then they buy the stock from the clearinghouse, whatever. And now you just do that yourself in an app, and they make a small commission. I think especially when you sell stocks. I think that's how Robinhood works. But I've never used any of these. Interestingly enough, while I was researching this, writing other stuff about this and researching this for the show, I got incessant advertising everywhere on YouTube, everywhere. Even though I have ad blockers up the wazoo and tracking blockers or whatever, but still I got advertised everywhere by eToro, which is like, I guess, the German version of Robin. I don't think they're related, but they're a European company, I think. And that's like the German thing. That's what a lot of, I know friends who trade on that as well. But anyway, I found a very interesting thread that a friend of mine linked me to. This is on the Fediverse by a guy called Walrus Lifestyle. who says, I think this is valid and a good point. I hadn't thought about this. Sadly, I wrote my newsletter before he said that, because mine was very much also like later read Matt Taibbi's, and that was very much in the same direction, that we both were basically going, fuck you, Wall Street. Nobody likes fucking hedge fund managers, and now the geeks fucking socked you one. Isn't that great? But this Walrus dude says maybe this wasn't the uppity little guys versus corporate story that everybody makes it out to be. So he says, I'm finding these posts about GameStop suggesting that somehow Reddit owned Wall Street to be sad. Reddit triggered a big Wall Street firm to crash. But another Wall Street firm, Citadel, made money on all sides of it. Citadel handles most of Robinhood's transactions, so they made money from every day trader who bought up GameStop and will make money when they sell. Meanwhile, Citadel bought Melvin, the hedge fund that crashed, so they got a bunch of assets at a big discount. These scum have a couple of centuries lead on you guys. This is very much a sentiment that I think he's right on this. It's a nice story to think a bunch of nerds defeated Wall Street by day trading with their computers, but that's a false narrative. The scum were ready to profit from it, and they did. All you did was help them discover which assets were distressed. I'm all for sticking it to Wall Street and would love to see that happen for real, but you have to be honest and clear-eyed to get there, in my opinion. I think he's true. I mean, the part of why this happened is this whole sentiment, with the crash of 2008 and hedge funds, being sleazy. Astral says eToro is an Israeli company. I didn't know that. I don't use these things. I'm not interested in the stock market. I just assumed they were Spanish because of their logo and the Toro thing. Okay, so maybe that I'm going to say something controversial here. That probably means the Mossad is earning. Sorry. So I think that was a big part of this thing. The whole nobody likes Wall Street, and they caused that crash, and they do sleazy things, and they certainly do. But I think what we're learning here now. It's just, but, they always do sleazy things. Like, even if you try to bust them and, fight them at their own game, they still win. Because they're just better at this shit. They know how this works, and they're always winning. Because, they're rich people and they know what they're doing. I found that interesting. But what we definitely see is that they didn't expect, like, especially these Melvin guys, didn't expect some nerds on Reddit to do this kind of thing. I found it very interesting also that a lot of, in the media, there was a lot of written at the beginning that, this is like, well, they weren't saying it's insider trading because it's clearly not insider trading because it's on a public message board. But they were basically saying, this is colluding, which is a word journalists like to use ever since the Trump era, colluding to manipulate stocks. And I was like, I don't get you guys at all. This is just people talking to each other, right? I mean, okay, they're doing this publicly, right? The suit guys do it in like smoky rooms with a cigar and an expensive scotch. But it's the same thing. Also, they're doing exactly the same thing as the suit guys because what is a hedge fund or a fund in general or any, these firms? What do? They pool the money from lots of individual investors who give them the money to invest for them because, the idea is that these guys know what they're doing. And then they use that and buy stock. And they, regularly, of course, if a huge hedge fund with a lot of pull buys a stock, it goes up, right? So their own stock goes up. Or, they tell their friends, hey, tomorrow I'm putting in this position for a fund. You might want to buy this stock. That would technically be insider trading, I guess, but people do that all the time. It's just like now it's just not the difference is this is not the suit guys. This is not the established guys where everybody expects them to do that. This is like some just a collection of random dudes on the internet. And that is the what people are calling it democratization. I hate that word. There's nothing to, if in English it's okay, but in German people keep using Demokratisierung, which in German in political science is an actual scientific term. It's a very specific term, and also in English it is wrong. I mean, that what people are talking about here, giving access to the little guy to something, for example, stock market or whatever. That is not democratization. Democracy is not giving everybody access, right? Democracy is a very specific thing. It is people voting to, determine the direction of their country. It's very specific, and so I don't like that term. IKEA uses it, like the democratization of design, which is like, even if you use that as we're not all voting what the next cupboard looks like, right? It's a pet peeve. I'm a journalist. Sometimes I get wound up because of words. But like the point is, yes, of course, these apps give access to the stock market to people that didn't have it before, right? And then the masses. And why wouldn't they talk about this on a message board? And what is wrong with that? Right? They did it in public. These hedge fund guys could have been they could have read Reddit. Reddit is like, it's even indexed. Like, you can fucking search it from Google. It's not even like Facebook, which is a closed group. This is like publicly indexed. Which is good. This is like on the internet. And I don't understand this impulse of saying, oh, we need to like legislate that, or like that is bad that they're doing that. How dare these people tell other people what stocks they buy? Like, what the fuck? So of course, Robinhood and these apps made this possible because of what they enable people to do. Now, interesting, when this whole thing was going on for some time, as we heard, Robinhood suspended actually the ability of their users to buy and sell GME, or as we like to call it here, the stonk. So that drew a lot of criticism, including from a friend of mine, and that was sarcasm. Good old Elon, the Musk, Elon, my kid has an unpronounceable name, dude. Who of course did this whole thing on the newest social network that is very, 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 very exclusive, because why wouldn't you? Anyway, quoting here from, what is this website? A link, as always, Private Citizen or Press, proactiveinvestors.co.uk. On Monday, Robinhood CEO and co-founder Vlad Tenev was questioned by Musk in an impromptu interview on the audio chat app Clubhouse, in which he acknowledged that the initial ban on the platform's users buying the shares was a, quote, bad outcome. However, he refuted claims that hedge funds suffering heavy losses during the episode had pressured the platform into limiting trades, saying instead that the company, quote, had to conform, end quote, to its working capital requirements, which were put under pressure by the unexpected upsurge in buying activity. Now, I'm not buying this. I don't think they were pressured. I think they were just some, they're on Wall Street, right? They know these people. They were like, dude, you're killing us here. Despite the refutation, Tenev said a greater level of transparency was needed to explain how brokers calculate deposit requirements, a requirement for platforms such as Robinhood due to delays between user investments and actual security purchases. So just because, you're buying in the app, and then they actually need to buy the fucking stock, which takes a while. So they have to put collateral up, I guess. I love it. This was impromptu, like on Clubhouse, but this guy is the PR pro. I like this. A greater level of transparency was needed. Why don't you just tell people? Right? You can just tell people. If you want more transparency, you're the head of the company. Just tell people. How about right now? Why don't you explain it to us right now in that fucking app with Elon Musk listening in and Grimes singing a slightly out of tune song in the background? Why? What? Like, I love this PR thing. When people are like, yeah, we need more of thing. and you're in charge of the company. You could make sure thing happens right now. Why are you not making sure thing happens? Why are you saying we need thing? Why are you telling us that? You're running your fucking company. Sorry, rant over. Let me have another sip of beer here. Right. The CEO described how the platform received an unusual large deposit request of around $3 billion from its clearing agency before the opening of the US stock market last Thursday. The same day, it attracted fury from retail traders by blocking purchases of shares in Gamestop, Stonks, as well as cinema chain AMC Entertainment Holdings, stock symbol AMC on the New York Stock Exchange. The influx of investors, that is Alpha Mike Charlie. The influx of investor orders also forced Robinhood to raise $1 billion in emergency funding last week to shore up its platform. While the company also announced on Monday night that it had raised another $2.4 billion to meet the surge in user growth. Right, so why don't they just... I think the most of the outrage was because people were like, why the fuck can't I buy that stock I want to buy? I mean, had they just said, right? They could have just told people. Like, they could have put a screen in the app saying, we can't let you buy GameStop right now because we need to come up with $3 billion. You're all buying this, and then you're basically sending us the money in a month or whatever, whenever the people are probably buying this on credit card debt, right? Whenever that clears in like 4 days. But meanwhile, we need like the $3 billion because we need to buy the actual stock. Which I guess is understandable, especially to people who do like financial transactions. I don't really understand. But so that's the interesting thing with those apps, right? People, I found this interesting because the tech media, I'm not even saying the mainstream media, the tech media was very surprised this has happened, and I looked. Because I was like, didn't these same guys write about these apps like for years? Because I remember seeing like these articles. I specifically remember seeing articles about apps. I think one was about Robinhood that just flew by, and I read by accident. I read a lot of shit. Obviously, journalists kind of my job, even about topics that I just tangentially only connected with. But so I remember reading the story. I think it was about Robinhood, and it read like a fucking native advertisement. I don't know if it was in the FT or Bloomberg. Can't really remember. But I was surprised because it wasn't a place where I'd think, I was surprised because it wasn't a place that I'd packed as, having native advertising. And the whole thing just read like, oh yeah, this app's the best thing ever invented. You can get rich from your living room couch. Use it now. And here's some free money you can, invest in stocks. So I went back and looked, and a lot of these publications talked about these apps in the last 3-4 years, how these are the new way of investing, of how it will change everything, right? It will create this wave of these small little guy retail investors, which is exactly what you've seen here. That is just like the only move from what you were saying was going to happen to what actually happened is that these people dared to talk to each other on the internet. Which will now get us to the aftermath and get us to what you'll do, right, when the people talk to each other on the internet. Spoilers, you try to make it so that they can't. Also, just occurred to me, of course, the app's called Robinhood, right? I mean, that whole name is just, we're the good guys, right? They're basically saying, we we steal from the rich and give it to the poor. You fuckers are, you're the same Wall Street fuckers. You're just Wall Street fuckers that bred with Silicon Valley fuckers. Anyway, so let's go. Let's see what's happened in the aftermath. Of course, as I was researching this today during the day, GameStop stock, or as we like to call it, the stonk, is falling rapidly. This is according to The Guardian. Shares in GameStop plunged by 65% in early trading on Wall Street. It's a trading mania sparked by small investors that sent its stock surging and cost hedge funds billions of dollars lost momentum. Struggling Texas-based video game store chain has been the focal point of a battle by small traders. We know about this, blah, blah, blah. GameStop shares hit a high of $482 last Thursday, but slumped to $80 shortly after the market opened. They recovered to $117 by mid-session, but closed down 60% at $90. Still, at $90. A year ago, shares in the 37-year-old chain, which plans to close 450 stores this year, were changing hands at $3.25 a share. So they're still up, but it's obviously going down. Now, because of course traditional media companies, as I said, didn't understand this, especially the financial guys didn't understand this, but like the mainstream was even worse. So they of course they understand Wall Street, but they don't understand Reddit. They apparently don't understand these apps they've been writing about, and they don't understand gaming culture and shit posting. So they have no what with Stonk? What is going? Diamond Hands? What is going on, Jeff? So of course, at first it was compared to Occupy Wall Street, basically terrorists. Then I think this is CNN. Actually, this is I think the guy who was the original guy who they made the Wolf of Wall Street movie after blamed it on Trump supporters. It's the Trumpkins, of course. And then the best article, this is hilarious. This link is in the show notes, private.citizen.press. As I titled the link, those pesky internet trolls who are basically all Nazis anyway. This is on The Guardian. This is amazing. This is like some millennial who used to be like, when he was younger, was in, I don't know, on 4chan or something. And as our Discord, our producers in the Discord basically analyzed, and I think this is correct, hates himself, and that he was part of these internet forums. It's like, oh, it's all these Nazis, and they're just doing things for fun, and they don't care if the whole world burns. Oh my God, people are so evil. You're like, dude, the really evil people are the normal guys on Wall Street, right? With the $40,000 watches, and one of their cufflinks is worth more than your or my yearly salary. Well, I don't have a salary, but yeah, it's just hilarious. Then of course politicians, basically AOC. It's capitalism. Liz Warren, of course, is Wall Street. It's all of Wall Street. And then the Republicans were they're also dumb. They're basically all blaming them newfangled day trade apps. So everybody's just hating on. This was also analyzed well, I think, by Terrell in the Discord. Everybody's just blaming, and I think this is a pattern that I want to write about this. I think he's right on this. This is a pattern that keeps emerging. These people, especially politicians, they just blame everything on the thing they hate anyway. Right. So for the Republicans who are just as dumb as AOC, they're just like, oh no, it's those people in their trainers, in their fucking sweatshirts, on their hoodies on the couch trading, right? And the Wall Street guys in the suit are the good guys. You're like, what the fuck? But of course, This is 2021, and we're in the middle of the culture wars. So what do you do when these evil people on the internet, they're just unruly, right? You already locked them into their house, right? You force them to put like a thing over their face when they go outside. But when they're in their living room, they do whatever they want, and they're unruly, and they go on the internet, and then they talk to each other. They talk to each other about what stocks they invest in. What do you do when that happens? Of course, you stop them. You stop them from talking on the internet. And that was the next idea. Great story in Ars Technica, which I usually like, but not this story. It's like, Robinhood banned them now. And Discord took the Wall Street Bet server down. To quote Ars Technica here, Discord was the first to act, shutting down the WSB server sometime around 6 p.m. In a statement provided to the press, the social media service said the WSB Discord server, quote, has been on our trust and safety team's radar for some time, or as I like to call them, the censorship bureau. The trust and safety team's radar for some time due to occasional content that violates our community guidelines, including hate speech, glorifying violence, and spreading misinformation. The fucking Nazis. Trump, Orange Man bad. Over the past few months, we have issued multiple warnings to the server admin, end quote. The statement goes on to specifically clarify that the move was not, quote, due to financial fraud related to GameStop or other stocks. That's because there was no fraud. Discord welcomes a broad variety of professional finance discussions from, as long as it's people in suits, from Wall Street and hedge funds, from investment clubs and day traders to college students and professional financial advisors, end quote. WSB mods were also quick to dispute Discord's banning decision, saying that if you gather 250,000 people in one spot, someone is going to say something that makes you look bad. We blocked all bad words with a bot, which should be enough, but apparently if someone can say a bad word with weird Unicode Icelandic characters and someone can screenshot it, you don't get to hang out with your friends anymore, end quote. Right, cancel culture, of course. So if anything's at fault, it's fucking Discord's moderation tools. Somebody says who's using Discord, which are non-existent. There's like one thing you can click. It's like ban bad words, and you don't know what bad words are. I use Discord. I also use Twitch. Twitch is hilarious. I was in just a quick rant aside. People seem to like rants. Green Turtle 69 says up against the wall. All of them up against the wall. Twitch. In Twitch chat, you can't say blah, blah, blah. So you can't say X. Like if you say a nation, a nationality, and then the word destroyed afterwards, the comment gets automatically deleted if you have like automod enabled, right? Because that's evil. So, but you know how I figured this out? I was in somebody's Twitch stream. My friend Halifa on Twitch, who streams at the moment Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is a game about the Viking era Middle Ages in England. So with it being Assassin's Creed, there's lots of historical things that are not historically correct, but we had a historical discussion, and we were talking about, I think it was Exeter. And we were talking about a church. So somebody was asking a question. So I had time. I was watching the stream. I went to Wikipedia and copied and pasted a bit about the history of this church. Now, in there it said that the Danish had destroyed the church, which is an undisputed historical fact. The Danish destroyed this church, right? The Vikings fucking burned it down. It was a Christian church. But you can't say that on Twitch. It's like, what the fuck? I mean, and that's pretty much how it is on Discord. So I'm with this admin. I think he's completely right. But of course you have to ban it. Now, one of the reasons this is hilarious. I mean, I really like Ars Technica normally. I mean, they're getting worse. They used to be really good. But this is not a new problem. Now, the guy who wrote this story is the gaming editor.